Hello, welcome back to the Red Jacket Lawyers channel on German company law in English. Today we're going to look at ongoing obligations of a GmbH once you have set it up. But before we dive in, please click like and subscribe to follow the channel in future, and feel free to provide us with feedback and questions on topics that you would like to learn about. So, what are the obligations that you need to meet once you've incorporated and started trading? The most obvious one probably is accounting and bookkeeping. It's underlying for everything else that follows from that, and the German law does make provisions on how that needs to be done. Specifically, the German Commercial Code, HGB, Handelsgesetzbuch. And it requires that you do so-called double entry bookkeeping, which is slightly more complex than what you may know as single entry bookkeeping, which is more like sort of an income expenditure ledger, which won't suffice. On the back of your bookkeeping, you need to file an annual financial statement. That's also known as the Jahresabschluss in German. It typically includes a balance sheet and a profit and loss statement. This you will obviously have to do on an annual basis, but once off at the outset, you ought to do an opening balance sheet, which basically sets down the financial situation of the company at the outset. Once you've created all those statements, you need to submit them properly, and that entails making them public in the Federal Gazette, the so-called Bundesanzeiger. And the corresponding duty is to do so within 12 months of the end of the fiscal year. So you do have the time to do it, but you haven't got forever. Obviously, your accounting and bookkeeping serves a purpose, and one of the purposes is to enable you to pay your taxes on time, which is the thing public bodies are generally most interested in. And as a GmbH, you are a corporate structure, and as such you have to prepare, file and potentially pay corporate income tax, also known as Körperschaftssteuer, and the tax rate is about 15% of your profits plus a small solidarity surcharge. If you are commercially trading, you also need to be paying a trade tax, Gewerbesteuer. That's a local tax levied by the municipality where you are based. So there is no flat rate all around Germany, but it varies from town to town, so to speak. And it's generally between 14 and 17%, so there or thereabouts. And in order to pay that, you'll obviously have to file a separate trade tax return. And last but not least, as far as your own tax liabilities are concerned, you of course need to look at value-added tax, VAT, also known as Umsatzsteuer or Mehrwertsteuer, and that has to be paid because what happens is you effectively collect the tax from the consumer on behalf of the government when you add it to your invoices, and then you have to hand that tax on. If you have employees, you're also in charge of what is commonly known as their payroll taxes, which mostly is their income tax, which you need to hand on their behalf to the taxman. So you have to calculate that on the back of their pay slip, and you're probably best advised finding yourself a tax advisor, the German term being Steuerberater, to do that work on your behalf. Rounding off the compliance and other duties section on GmbHs, you want to make sure that you notify any changes that happen to the Handelsregister, to the commercial register. So the obvious ones are moving address, changing director, or changes in shareholders. And some of these steps will again involve a notary to properly register and execute those changes. You'll also have to pay a fee towards the transparency register. The transparency register serves the purpose of fighting money laundering and terrorism. The register charges a fee of about €20 a year, and commonly that's levied along with the filing fees for your annual accounts. And last but not least, you'll have to face up to the infamous German TV and radio license fee, which is also known as Rundfunkbeitrag, and which basically falls due as soon as you have an office. However, if you do run your company from the comfort of your own home, you can probably avoid having to pay it twice. So these are broadly the ongoing obligations you have with running a company, and that shall conclude today's short video. The next video is going to be on costs involved in a GmbH. That's also going to be reasonably short. And then to round the opening series on a GmbH off, we probably do a short video on practical tips and common pitfalls that affect GmbHs as the last one in this particular series. Thank you for watching. Once again, please share and like and subscribe. We look forward to seeing you again. All the best.